What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to be addressing the lies of atheists. Okay, I'm not. And I'm sorry I started a video like that. I'm in my 40s for crying out loud. But this guy thinks atheists aren't honest with themselves. And in case you weren't aware, I just love to be told what's going on in my head by someone else. Hello, I'm the Skeptic, the British floating circle that watches people make extraordinary claims, and then I explain why I don't accept what they're saying. You know why atheists don't believe in gods? They just aren't honest with themselves. It seems like theists have now just given up on trying to prove a god, and are now just blaming us for lying about what might be obvious. Well, Seth here thinks so at least, so he's going to explain just why atheists are being so dishonest with what's really going on here. But before we find out why we're so dishonest, if this isn't your first Skeptic video, hit the like, the subscribe and the bell, and let's hope the algorithm starts working honestly too. And a super thanks to those that hit super thanks in some recent videos. Mikael Lundgren, I Am J0, Ghostface, and Better Than Ember. Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe bestows leaves upon you all. More hen. Right, I'm ready to see why I'm dishonest then. Honestly.
What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to be talking about how atheists aren't honest with themselves and how their worldview is not consistent. So let's get into it.
Worldview? Consistent? Hang on now. I just don't believe in gods.
So, on an atheistic worldview, there is no real meaning to life. There's no purpose to life. It's just complete nihilism because, we're just bags of meat. Something exploded 14, 15, however many billion years ago it was. And here we are now.
Mate, there's a big difference between 14 or 15 billion years and roughly 13.8 billion. There's no real meaning in life. We're nihilists, blah, blah, blah. Well, dude, I'm sorry, but you're just flat out wrong. Not all atheists are nihilists. And as for the meaning of life, I think you're getting confused with believers. There's a purpose to death with those folks because when they die, they think they get some kind of eternal, albeit very undemonstrated, reward. I'm of the position that life is all I have, so I'm going to make the best of it whilst I'm alive to do so.
And that just doesn't work. And then they still say that we can make up our own meaning. We can have subjective meaning. But that doesn't make any sense because a lot of these atheists, they say, we need to follow the evidence, we need to seek the truth.
What does having some kind of purpose have to do with seeking truth and whatnot? And what is a believer's purpose? To try and convince the rest of the planet that their murderous sky wizard is the real one?
And I agree that we need to follow evidence and seek the truth.
Then what's the f***ing problem, slop for brains?
But they're saying that, and then they're not seeking the truth because they're not being honest with themselves. And they're saying, okay, we should just make up our own meaning to make ourselves feel better about life. But that's not being honest with yourself, and that's not being truthful.
Why not? Because we don't accept that there's a floaty man telling us what to do?
We should be truthful. And the atheists that are truthful are the ones that admit that on their worldview, it's just complete nihilism, like Friedrich Nietzsche. At least Friedrich Nietzsche admitted that there is no objective meaning, there is no objective morality. We're just kind of just here, and it's completely meaningless. It's just a meaningless existence.
I don't know, man. It's more meaningless to me to spend my time believing that there's a creator that dictates who should and shouldn't exist.
And modern-day atheists, a lot of atheists nowadays just kind of lie to themselves and tell themselves, oh no, it's okay, we can make our own meaning, we can still have meaning, we can still live a good life, but we can still have hope for the future or whatever. But on your worldview, you can't. Because there is nothing objective about life. Everything is subjective. There's nothing to live for, really.
What a sad existence you have. Only believing in a god gives you something to live for. You need something to tell you how to live your life. And not very well if you go by the Bible.
There isn't even any point to anything, really. Because it's nothing, really. Everything has no purpose.
What's a bat's purpose? What's a crocodile's purpose? What's the purpose of a cold virus? These are also things that you think Godfrey created.
And they also say things like that one of the most common arguments for atheists is the argument of evil.
I think the most common argument is there's no convincing evidence of any God. Have you ever spoken to an atheist?
And they say evil exists, therefore God isn't real, because why would God allow evil to happen? But they're assuming that there's a such thing as objective evil and objective good, and they have no way of proving that on their worldview.
That's not an atheist position, though, you donut. They're talking about from the God standard. You think that God exists. You also recognise that people suffer. Since you think there's an all-powerful being, why is it letting that happen? Ignoring the point and trying to shift it back onto an atheist is dumb AF. Are you saying bad stuff doesn't happen then? You'll probably just say, well, God works in mysterious ways.
Alright, so that's the problem. Like, they say, oh, suffering is bad. Why is suffering bad? Who says it's bad? Why is suffering good bad? And they say, okay, if things benefit society, it's good, and if it makes people suffer, it's bad. What is benefiting? What is beneficial? What is good? What is bad? They just go in circles, and they can't answer it. They can't answer what's good and bad.
You just answered it. If you need a God to tell you what's good or bad, especially when it itself does some pretty things, then you're a pretty person.
So that's the main problem with atheism. Their arguments they can't use moral arguments because they can't even prove that morality exists on their worldview.
You blasted that out of nowhere, but sure, gods are way more moral than people who don't think that owning humans as property is good, or folks that just drown entire civilizations for no reason.
Because materialists, most of them are materialists, obviously. You can't get morality from just the physical, because morality is not a physical thing. It's not something that you can look at, you can see in a test tube. But they're materialists. They only believe in the physical.
Did you smoke something from a test tube? That made no sense. And no, I don't just believe in the physical. I believe in things that have logical, repeatable, demonstrable explanations.
But they believe in morality, and that's not a physical thing, so it's just completely inconsistent.
At least your understanding of atheists is consistent. Consistently wrong.
They're stealing a worldview that would only make... They're stealing a theistic worldview while claiming to be just materialists who just, follow the evidence, but they're assuming that morality exists and they can't provide any evidence for that if they're atheists.
All right, tell me what I've done that's immoral. Like, come to the comments on my video and tell me what I've personally done that's immoral.
So yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem that I see with atheists. They're not honest with themselves. They say we can make up our own meaning, but that's not being honest.
Yes, it is. Even if they say we can make up our own meaning and then they make up their own meaning, they're being honest about what they're doing. Good on them, I say. As long as it doesn't go against the well-being of society, I'm all for it.
You should want to be honest with yourself and say, if you're an atheist and you genuinely believe that there is no God, then you should be honest with yourself and say that everything is meaningless if you're genuinely about seeking the truth.
I think I'm old enough to be your dad, so no, I won't be doing that, kid.
Or you could actually follow the evidence and see that there is a God, there is a higher power, there is more to life than just the physical, material existence.
Yeah? Prove it.
There is an objective meaning, there is a purpose to life.
Yeah? What is it then?
And you don't just make up your own meaning, you don't get to just do whatever you want.
Right. That's why we have laws and law enforcement, and I doubt the police are going to arrest you for eating a lobster.
That's not how it works, and on an atheistic worldview, that's just not being honest with yourselves. So, you should be honest with yourselves and say, yeah, everything is nihilism if you want to be an atheist.
But it's not, though. So my suggestion to you is to go and speak to some actual atheists.
And you shouldn't use arguments against God using morality if you can't prove morality. You just can't prove it on an atheist worldview. So yeah, that was pretty much it for this video, guys. I hope you liked it. So yeah, see you next time.
And next time came pretty quick because Seth made another video about the comments he started getting from non-believers. Maybe he redeemed himself. Let's have a look.
So guys, in my last video that I made about how atheists aren't honest with themselves, I got a lot of comments filled with angry atheists. And they didn't understand what I meant in my video.
Or what you mean is, I got it all wrong, and now I'm going to backtrack and blame you for misunderstanding.
So I'm going to try to explain myself and see if I can get these people to understand what I meant. So let's get into it. So, a lot of the comments on my video said that I don't understand what atheism is, or that atheism doesn't equal nihilism all the time. Atheism and nihilism aren't synonymous. And people saying that I don't know anything about atheism. And I just want to explain myself. So, yes, I know that the literal definition of atheism is just that You lack a belief in God. That's the definition of atheism, and I know that. And I know that that is not the same definition as nihilism. I never said atheism and nihilism are the same thing or they mean the same thing. So, on an atheistic worldview, there is no real meaning to life. There's no purpose to life. It's just complete nihilism. I understand they're not the same thing. But what I was saying is that atheism logically leads to nihilism. I was not saying that all atheists are nihilists.
Well, you're still wrong, because you're still suggesting that people who don't believe in a God don't give a crap about anything. You're just changing the wording and getting the same result.
That's not what I was saying at all. What I was saying is that atheism will logically lead to nihilism because atheism means that there is no God, so that means there is no objective meaning in life. There's nothing that gives your life meaning. And you can make up your own meaning, but then why would you do that? Why do you want to do that? Why should we do anything? Why do we ought to do anything? Why do we ought to seek the truth? Why do we ought to help people? Why do we ought to make meaning in our life? Why can't we just, do nothing? Why can't we just, do nothing, basically?
Hang on. You better not be saying we only ought to help people because a God said so. That would be pretty I've helped plenty of people, and I do it because it's just nice to be nice.
Why? Why do we ought to do anything? Why do we ought to help people? Why should we do these things? And you can't derive an ought from an is. This is the is-ought problem that David Hume articulated.
How about your argument is silly and you ought not to say it again?
Say it. You can't get an ought from an is, so why do anything on atheism? If you believe that there is no God, why should we do anything? Why do we ought to do anything?
Because me like to live and have fun with my family who also don't believe in gods. Quit telling me how to live my life.
Why? So that was probably that's what I meant in the video.
Well, why didn't you say that instead of bumbling through loads of nonsense?
I did not say, or maybe it sounded like that, but I did not mean to make it sound like atheism and nihilism are the exact same thing. No, all I was saying is that atheism logically leads to nihilism.
So, hang on, you didn't say that, but you're saying it now?
Alright. And I had a lot of people saying atheism isn't a worldview. I know that atheism itself is not a worldview, and when I said the word atheistic worldview, I meant a worldview in which you think that there is no God.
It's not a worldview, dude. You just did it again.
That's what I mean by an atheistic worldview. And in that worldview, I think that logically leads to a nihilistic worldview.
We get it. You don't think all atheists are nihilists, but you totally think all atheists are nihilists.
And I know there's plenty of atheists that are not nihilists. Alright, I know that, and I had plenty of atheists in the comments of my video saying that. Like, oh, you don't know any atheists. You don't know what atheists believe. I do know what atheists believe. I know that not everyone who's an atheist is a nihilist necessarily.
Man, you get so close, and then you just ruin it. Sure. You definitely know what you're talking about.
But what I am saying is that if you're an atheist and you're not a nihilist, then I think you're just not taking atheism to its logical conclusion.
Which is what?
Which I think is nihilism. It's just complete nihilism.
Thank goodness you don't speak for atheists then, because you really don't have a clue.
So if you're an atheist, you're trying to make up your own meaning in life, which is fine, but you're just making up your own subjective meaning. You're just trying to make yourself feel better about life, I think.
And you're not? By thinking that when you die, a man with a beard will let you live on a cloud and get you to tell it how amazing it is for letting you live in a cloud land for all eternity, despite it making some very poor choices with the things it created. Sure.
Just so you can be happier. But you're not actually taking things to its logical conclusion. You're not actively seeking the truth. You're not trying to see what your worldview concludes to, what your worldview will logically conclude to. And that's what we should do in life. We should actively seek the truth. We should see what every worldview actually ends up at. What each worldview ends up at, whether it's theism, atheism.
This poor kid is far too young to be having this kind of a breakdown. Now I feel bad. Go and bestow some leaves from Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe, leaf be upon her. I've put his links in the description.
Scientism any philosophy, any form of philosophy, anything in life, any worldview, any opinion. We should see what that ends up at and see what's the best and what makes the most sense.
Or look at the evidence to support claims and decide if it's convincing to you. Simples.
So I think that's what atheism is. It logically leads to nihilism. If you believe there is no God, then I think that you logically will end up at nihilism if you go all the way and you take it to its logical conclusion.
Didn't you just say you should find out, and then you just said, I think? Mate, it might be time for you to actually look into why people don't believe in gods instead of just making it up.
So that's what I meant. I was not saying that all atheists are nihilist or atheism and nihilism are synonymous. It's not what I meant in the video at all. So I hope this clarifies some things. So yeah, see you later.
No, it didn't. You spent one video saying something incorrect about atheists, and then a second video saying you weren't saying the thing in the first video, but just saying it again anyway. You really should go and watch some atheists and see why they don't accept gods. Here are a few great channels. Go and learn some stuff. Sorry, 2 videos, and I still feel like I'm being honest with myself. I'm simply just not convinced. But maybe convinced you that you're a big liar. Let me know in the section below. I'm going to skeptic this as more dishonesty coming from the other side. A big thank you to this month's top level ticks on Patreon. Dark Ether Piao, Tamo, The Barely Bearable Atheist, George, Godless Granny, Addy Rockhart, The Enixes, Jakari, Elizabeth, Whiskey Tech Fred, and Rick, as well as all the $3 base ticks. You can become a supporter on Patreon too at patreon.com/theskeptic. The link is in the description, along with links to all my other socials. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. From me, the Skeptic, stay safe, keep thinking logically, and ask questions. Skepticism is the first step towards truth. See you next Saturday.